3 empty seats. That's what I saw when they called my name at graduation. Front row, reserved, with little printed cards that said, Bennett family. Except my family wasn't there. They were at home, hosting a Super Bowl party. I found out from a photo my mom posted while I was literally walking across the stage. Her famous 7-layer dip, perfectly arranged. My dad holding up a beer. My brother Derek mid-laugh with his friends. The caption. Game day ready. Not a single word about me. I'm Alessandra Bennett, and that moment, standing alone in a parking lot, holding a diploma I'd spent 6 years earning, that's when everything changed. Not because they didn't show up, but because of what I finally decided to do about it. Let me back up. The morning started like I was still living in some fantasy where my family actually cared. I woke up early, nerves making my hands shake while I made coffee. My rented gown hung on the closet door, and for just a minute, I let myself imagine them being there. My mom's smile. My dad's casual wave. Even Derek pretending not to be bored. Normal stuff. The kind of thing other families did without thinking twice. I'd paid for this degree myself. Every single class, every textbook, every late-night energy drink that kept me awake through study sessions after 12-hour shifts. I worked full-time at a medical billing company while taking night classes. Most weeks, I saw my bed for maybe 5 hours a night. I'd skip lunch to save money for tuition. I'd worn the same 3 outfits to class for 2 years straight because new clothes weren't in the budget. And through all of it, my family never asked how I was doing. Never asked if I needed help with anything other than money. Because that's all I'd ever been to them, a backup bank account. I got ready in the quiet house, checking my phone every 5 minutes. Waiting for a text saying they were on their way. Asking where to park. Anything. Instead, the family group chat lit up with Super Bowl talk. My mom posting food prep photos. My dad arguing about which team would choke. Derek bragging about some bet. Nobody mentioned my graduation. Not once. But here's what really got me. 2 weeks earlier, they'd asked me to cover Derek's car insurance. Just this month, Alyssa. He's between jobs. I'd sent the money. $300 I'd saved for a new interview suit. And now they couldn't spare 3 hours to watch me graduate. I told myself they'd still show up. Maybe they were just bad at texting. Maybe they were already on their way and too busy to respond. I actually believed that right up until I got to the auditorium. The place was packed. Families everywhere, balloons, flowers, kids running around while parents tried to corral them for photos. I watched a dad adjust his daughter's cap, both of them laughing. Watched a mom cry happy tears while hugging her son. Watched families being families. My row was near the front, and when I sat down, I could see those 3 reserved seats with our name on them. They looked so official. So certain. Like the people who were supposed to sit there actually gave a damn. The woman next to me leaned over. Is your family running late? I forced a smile. Traffic, probably. She nodded sympathetically. My husband almost didn't make it. These ceremonies, right? But they always get here. Except mine didn't. The lights dimmed. The ceremony started. I kept glancing back at the entrance, still holding on to this pathetic hope that they'd slip in late. Then my phone buzzed. Another group chat photo. The TV blaring pre-game coverage. My dad's hand holding up a beer. Derek laughing at something. They weren't running late. They were never coming. That truth hit me like cold water. I sat there in the dark auditorium, surrounded by hundreds of people celebrating their kids, their siblings, their loved ones. And I had nobody. When they called my name, I stood up. My legs felt shaky. The walk to that stage felt like miles. Every step, I was hyper-aware of those empty seats. Of the families around me cheering for their people while mine couldn't even pause their party to text congratulations. The dean shook my hand, smiled, said congratulations. I smiled back, held my diploma, heard the polite applause from strangers. And inside, something was crumbling. I made it to the parking lot before I broke. The February wind cut through my gown, and suddenly my legs just gave out. I sat down on a curb in the back row, diploma in my lap, and the tears came. Not the loud, dramatic kind. The quiet kind. The kind that comes from years of swallowed disappointments finally reaching capacity. I'd been there for every single one of their moments. My dad's retirement party, I'd organized it, paid for half of it. My mom's surgery last year, I'd taken a week off work, no pay, to help her recover. Derek's graduation from community college, which he'd barely finished, I'd been in the front row cheering. But they couldn't show up for mine. My phone buzzed again. More party photos. My mom grinning next to a tray of wings. My dad raising a toast. Derek posing like he'd won something. Not one message asking how it went. Not one, sorry we missed it. Nothing. I sat there on that freezing curb and laughed once. No humor in it. Just the absurdity hitting me all at once. I'd spent 6 years working my tail off. Night classes after full shifts, studying in break rooms, sacrificing everything, and they couldn't skip a football game. A game they'd seen 100 times. For a daughter they'd only have one graduation for. That's when my phone buzzed with a different message. My Aunt Diana. Saw the ceremony photos online. Proud of you, sweetheart. Call me when you're free. Something about those words landed differently. Someone had noticed. Someone who didn't need anything from me. Who just cared. Diana was my mom's older sister, but they'd had a falling out years ago. Something about Diana refusing to loan my dad money for one of his business ventures. At the time, I'd thought Diana was being cold. Now I wondered if she'd just seen them clearly before I did. I stared at that message while my breath fogged in the cold air. My diploma sat across my lap like a question I couldn't answer yet. What happens now? I couldn't go home and pretend this didn't gut me. Couldn't paste on a smile and laugh at my dad's jokes or listen to Derek's excuses about why a football game mattered more than me. Something had shifted too far inside me to slide back into place. That's when I opened the travel app on my phone. Not dramatically. No movie moment. Just me, sitting on cold concrete, scrolling through flights I'd saved months ago as daydreams. Trips I'd take someday. When I had time. When I had money. When my family didn't need me. But here's the thing, they always needed me. And that need had cost me everything. My savings account had $1,700 in it. That was supposed to be my emergency fund, the thing I'd been building for 3 years. Every extra dollar went there. But I'd lost count of how many times I'd dipped into it for them. For Dad's unexpected dental work. For Mom's surprise property tax bill. For Derek's endless string of crises. I'd been rebuilding it, slowly. And now I was about to spend it on myself for the first time in my adult life. My finger moved before fear could stop it. One-way ticket to Colorado. A wellness retreat I'd bookmarked during a sleepless night, telling myself I'd go when life calmed down. Life was never going to calm down. Not with them in it. The confirmation email hit my inbox. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. For the first time in years, I hadn't chosen them. I'd chosen me. Colorado looked unreal from the airplane window. Mountains covered in snow, peaks rising into blue sky. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass, and the engine's hum was the first real quiet I'd felt in forever. No buzzing group chats. No emergency bills. No guilt creeping under the door like a draft. Just mountains and sky and the thought, maybe I don't have to go back. The retreat was tucked into a hillside covered in pine trees. The lobby smelled like cedar and something citrusy, warm enough to melt the tension I'd been carrying in my shoulders. A woman at the front desk smiled at me. Welcome, Alessandra. We're glad you're here. Nobody had said my name like that in so long. With no expectations attached. No urgency. Just, welcome. My room overlooked a frozen lake. I stood at the window watching ice shimmer in the afternoon sun, and I felt my shoulders drop. Inch by inch. I hadn't realized how tightly I'd been holding myself together. That first night, I didn't check my phone once. I sat by the window with tea, watching the sun set over the mountains, and felt something I couldn't name at first. It took me until the sky went dark to recognize it. Peace. I told myself this was just a break. A pause. Then I'd go back to Hartford and resume being the good daughter, the reliable sister, the walking wallet. But that illusion shattered the next morning. After a massage, the first one I'd ever had in my life, I checked my phone out of habit. 15 missed messages. 13 from my family. Mom, can you send a few hundred? Dad needs help with a bill. Just temporary. Derek lost his card again. You know how it is. Not one word about graduation. Not one congratulations. Just hands out, palms up, waiting for me to fill them. The last message was from Diana again. Alessa, honey. Check your credit report. Now. My stomach dropped. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the credit monitoring app I'd set up years ago. Waited for it to load. When it did, I stopped breathing. Accounts I didn't recognize. Store cards I'd never opened. A personal loan I'd never signed for. Credit inquiries stacked one after another, like someone had gone shopping with my identity. I scrolled slowly, ice spreading through my veins. The dates lined up perfectly with every emergency they'd asked me for money to cover. A furniture store card, opened the same week Dad said he needed money for dental work. A personal loan for $8,000, dated 2 days after Mom's property tax emergency. Store after store, inquiry after inquiry. They hadn't needed the money. They'd taken something worse. They'd stolen my future to fund their present. The room felt smaller. The walls pressed in. This wasn't just neglect. This was deliberate. Calculated. They hadn't just skipped my graduation, they'd been too busy committing fraud in my name. I closed my eyes, gripping my phone until my knuckles went white. The hurt was deep, but underneath it, something else stirred. Something hotter. Anger. Real anger. Not the kind I swallowed and buried. The kind that finally had permission to exist. This was the moment the story changed. Not when they didn't show up, but when I finally saw them clearly. When I called Diana back, my hands were steady. I hoped I was wrong, she said quietly. You need a lawyer, sweetheart. Someone who knows this stuff. Her words landed like a blueprint. A way forward. She gave me a name. Michelle Delgado, a lawyer who specialized in family financial abuse. She's not cheap, Diana warned. But she's worth it. And Alessa. I'll cover the retainer. Consider it a graduation gift. I cried then. Real, grateful tears. For years, I'd let guilt decide my choices. Let love excuse harm. But standing there with those mountains outside my window, I understood something simple and devastating. If I didn't fight for myself now, nobody ever would. I flew back to Hartford carrying a folder thick with documentation, every fraudulent account, every inquiry, every payment I'd made thinking I was helping family. Everything the lawyer Diana recommended said I'd need. The lawyer's name was Michelle. She was sharp, efficient, and the first person who looked at my situation and called it what it was, financial abuse. This is criminal, she said, tapping the stack of papers. You understand that, right? This isn't just family drama. This is identity theft. Hearing it said out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Michelle walked me through next steps. Freeze my credit. File police reports. Get a restraining order if needed. Every word she said felt like building a wall between me and the people who'd spent years taking pieces of me. Here's what most people don't understand, Michelle said, looking at me directly. Family can hurt you worse than strangers because they know exactly where you're vulnerable. They know which buttons to push. And they'll use love as a weapon to keep you compliant. That hit hard because it was true. I got back to my apartment late. The door had barely closed behind me when the pounding started. Heavy. Frantic. The whole frame shook. Alessandra. My dad's voice, loud and furious. Open this door right now. My heart jumped into my throat. I looked through the peephole. His face filled the glass, red and angry. Behind him, my mom clutched her sweater dramatically. Derek scrolled his phone like he was waiting for a show to start. The pounding got louder. Alessa, my mom pleaded. We need to talk. This is important. My phone rang. My landlord. They're demanding I let them into your apartment, she said. Do you want me to call the police? Yes, I whispered. Please. Even through the door, my dad heard. Police. Are you kidding me? We're your family. But that word, family, it meant something different to me now. When the officers arrived, the hallway filled with shouting. My parents insisting it was all a misunderstanding. Derek claiming they just needed to get a few things. The officers escorted them out with warnings. But their accusations hung in the air long after the noise faded. I sat on my couch, hands shaking, and understood the truth. I wasn't safe anywhere near them. The next morning, I went back to Michelle's office. She organized my documents with careful precision. "This is enough," she said, tapping the stack. "We can move forward." Within a week, I had a restraining order. My credit was frozen. My accounts were secure. For the first time, I had boundaries. Fragile, but real. Then the email came. A promotion. A transfer to Portland. A chance to start over somewhere nobody knew the version of me who apologized for existing. I accepted without hesitation. Packing felt like shedding skin. With my friend Sienna's help, I boxed up years of exhaustion and watched movers loaded into a truck heading west. When my plane took off, Hartford shrinking below me, I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. But in a way that would save me. Portland was everything my old life wasn't. Quiet. Respectful. My new team valued my work. My apartment overlooked city lights. For months, I told nobody the whole story. Healing came slowly, like warmth returning to frozen fingers. Then a business conference invited me to speak about financial independence. I hesitated until Michelle said, "Your voice could help someone who thinks they're alone." So I said yes. The ballroom was enormous. Rows of chairs, soft stage lighting, hundreds of people murmuring. I stood backstage, smoothing my blazer, trying to steady my shaking hands. This was bigger than anything I'd done before. The conference had over 500 attendees, financial advisors, young professionals, people trying to build better lives. My topic was supposed to be basic budgeting strategies for recent graduates. I'd prepared slides, charts, all the normal stuff. But standing there backstage, I realized the speech I'd prepared wasn't the one I needed to give. When I stepped to the podium, applause rose politely. "Thank you for having me," I began. "Today I want to talk about..." A crash at the back of the room cut through my sentence. At first, I thought someone dropped something. Then I heard the voice I'd spent months outrunning. "That's our daughter." My dad's shout sliced through the hall. My chest tightened. Hundreds of heads turned. The doors burst open. My family flooded in like a storm. My father red-faced. My mother in practiced distress. Derek holding his phone up, recording. "She abandoned us," my dad bellowed. "Left us with nothing while she ran off to get rich." The audience murmured, confused. Cameras rose. My mother clutched her chest. "Alessandra, sweetheart, please. Talk to us. You're tearing this family apart." Every instinct screamed at me to shrink, to apologize, to make myself small enough for their comfort. But something steadier rose in me. A voice shaped by mountains and lawyers and the knowledge that I had nothing left to lose. I leaned into the microphone. "Security," I said calmly. "They're in violation of a court order. Remove them, please." The room went silent. Then security moved. My father roared. "A court order? On your own parents?" Derek stepped forward, still recording. "Tell them how you froze our accounts. Tell them how heartless you are." I looked him directly in the eyes. "I protected myself. From all of you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Before another word could erupt, a sharp voice cut across the chaos. "Douglas Bennett and Derek Bennett." A detective strode through the doorway. "We have warrants for financial fraud and identity misuse. Please step forward." The entire room erupted in whispers. My father sputtered. "This is ridiculous. We're her family." The detective didn't flinch. Family doesn't excuse criminal behavior. As officers cuffed them, my mother lunged toward me, eyes wet, not with remorse, but panic. "Alessandra, stop this. We need you." I shook my head. "You needed my credit. You needed my silence. You never needed me." Her face crumpled. But for once, it didn't hook into my guilt. It just drifted past me. When they were let out, the ballroom fell quiet. Hundreds of eyes turned toward me. Not judging. Waiting. I stepped back to the microphone and exhaled. "My talk today was supposed to cover budgeting techniques," I said. "But maybe what we really need to discuss is this. What happens when the greatest threat to your financial stability comes from the people you love?" and what it takes to walk away. Nobody looked at their phones. Nobody shifted uncomfortably. I told them the truth, not with bitterness, but with clarity. The empty seats at graduation. The parking lot tears. The retreat where I finally chose myself. The discovery of every stolen line of credit. I told them about the moment I realized that love shouldn't cost you your future. That family should build you up, not tear you down for parts. I spoke about fear. And about freedom. When I finished, silence hung for a breath. Then the audience rose to their feet. Applause washed over me in a way I'd never felt before. Not because they pitied me, but because they recognized what it takes to build a life from the wreckage of a family who never showed up. And standing there on that stage, a different city, I realized something simple and profound. I wasn't alone anymore. The investigation moved fast after that. With warrants served and Michelle guiding every step, the truth unfolded in black and white. Accounts opened without my consent. Loan inquiries tied directly to my father and Derek. Patterns of manipulation stretching back further than I wanted to admit. My father took a plea deal. 2 years probation, restitution payments, and a permanent record. Derek got community service and mandatory financial counseling. My mother wasn't charged, but the restraining order included her too. The court made the restraining order permanent. My credit was restored, piece by piece. For the first time in my adult life, my future didn't feel like something they could reach into and ruin. Portland became more than a fresh start. It became home. My office walls slowly filled with pieces of a life I chose. Photos with coworkers who'd become real friends. A plant Sienna insisted I keep alive. And finally, the framed diploma I hung above my desk. Not to prove anything to them. To remind myself how far I'd walked alone. Some nights, I still heard echoes of old guilt. But they faded quickly now, drowned out by something steadier. Safety. Peace. The quiet truth that I'd saved myself. Standing backstage at my next speaking event, I looked out at rows of people waiting. People who chose to be there. Who showed up without being asked. I touched the edge of my note cards and felt certainty settle in. Choosing myself hadn't destroyed my life. It had rebuilt it. And if someone out there needed permission to walk away from the kind of love that only takes, maybe my story could be that permission. Thanks for listening, and if this story resonates with you, don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about breaking free and building the life you deserve. Sometimes the family you need is the one you choose for yourself.